Episode 120 Above Ground Podcast. No Hopeless Soul with Jayme from Indy.
Disclaimer. The hosts of this podcast, Timothy Patrick and Will Foley, are by no means medical professionals. However, having lived experience with mental illness themselves, they have gained useful perspectives on common mental health issues that some of us struggle to overcome on a daily basis. By sharing their stories, they hope to create connection. By creating connection, they hope to help you find your purpose. And through purpose, we can all begin to build the foundation for positive mental health. This is Above Ground Podcast.
Are you ready to lace up your boots, throw up your horns, and jump into the pit? Then let's stomp the stigmas of mental illness. It's time for Above Ground Podcast. Now, Will Foley and Timothy Patrick.
Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome to Above Ground Podcast.
Above Ground Podcast, because you can't serve below.
What's up, TPP? How we doing this morning, dude?
We're doing. How are you doing?
I'm all right, man. I'm all right. Me and Grogu are hanging out, chit-chatting, drinking some coffee. He's got his coffee. I got mine.
All right. You got double.
Yeah, I got double, except his cup seems to be a lot more empty than mine for some reason. I don't know why that is. We are on Zoom, so that means we are here for another interview this week. And I'm going to let Tim lead us in on this one.
Well, we are here with Jayme, and it's kind of been a long time coming. I believe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we kind of found each other on a Facebook post. Maybe if it was AFSP, and she had just kind of left a comment about losing her son, Griffin. And so I kind of just saw it and gave her a little solace, I guess you could say. And we kind of went back and forth a bit. And, we're always looking for people to help us shed some light, help us open up the conversation on these topics. And, these topics aren't always easy to talk about, and they are often shied away from talking about. So, and that's what we're here to do, is to kind of open up the conversation, not to open wounds or anything, and not to romanticize it, but to spread awareness that this stuff is happening and how others are dealing with it, how they're handling the situation, what they're doing. Some of that stuff may help others. So, Jayme's here to basically, tell us that no one's too far gone and there's no hopeless souls.
Well, good morning, Jayme. Thank you for being here with us.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Let me just ask first, how are you now? How are you doing? How are you holding up and moving on? And
it depends on the day. I have my really good days with family and my grandkids, and I still have days that I can't get out of bed, but those days are fewer now. He is constantly on my mind. He's first thing I think of in the morning, and I have a picture of him in my room, and so every night before I go to bed, I look at him and tell him, I love you and I miss you. But it's like a roller coaster you can never get off of.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Tim.
No, I was just, go ahead.
I wanted to ask, may I ask how old Griffin was?
He was 20.
Wow.
He would have been 21 on March 16th. He passed away September 14th. 2018.
Now, there's no one single reason that leads us down this path ever, as we find out. Did Griffin have mental health issues growing up? Was this something that kind of maybe came out of like a left field sort of thing? Or was there anything that you had noticed? Was he in treatment for anything? Did he have any issues leading up to this?
You know, it's so funny the things that you see afterwards. But, you know, Griffin, as a child, struggled with his weight a lot. And I can't ever say that he was bullied or anything because he was comfortable with his weight as far as I knew. But he started using drugs in high school. He started, smoking pot and stuff like that. And, of course I wasn't comfortable with that. And, but I never really saw any depression, or anything that would make this come of, cause this, I never thought he would do this. He was always surrounded by a ton of friends that he loved dearly and that loved him dearly. And he was, always on the go. I mean, he was always on the go. He worked, the same job through high school, out of high school for like 2.5 years. He had the same core group of friends since he was, early grade school, and kept adding on to friends and stuff like that. So he was well loved and loved deeply.
What was some of his favorite things to do? What was like, where was he headed as far as you knew? Because obviously graduating high school, was he in college? Was he heading to college? Was he going into the military?
When he graduated high school, the majority of his friends went straight to Indiana University.
Okay.
And Griffin did not go. And so he waited 2 years, and that was terribly hard on him. All his buddies were there and he wasn't. And so he worked really hard, and I could tell a little bit that, he was down and didn't like it. He started going to visit down there, which it's not too far. It's like an hour away. And he would drive down there on the weekends and visit his friends. And but then I figured out the drug use got deeper then.
Okay.
And I think that was because of him not being with his friends. And he started using some harder things.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounded like he was always surrounded by either friends or family. So, having that same core group of friends and, growing up with that, and then to just kind of suddenly lose it, although they technically didn't lose them, but, you know what I mean? Just to kind of, have other people move out or whatever, move away where they're not as accessible. I could see that being a pretty big shock.
Yeah, that's a loss to him for sure.
Right.
I mean, out now, that's a loss. Like he was grieving that during those couple of years. If you don't mind me asking, was there a reason that he chose not to go with his friends? Did he not know what he wanted to do? Was it not really?
I really don't know why. He just said he wasn't ready. And my daughter was in college at a different school, and you know, we had money saved for Griffin, and we told him, you know, we're going to help you. And he just wasn't ready.
A lot of people aren't ready to make that decision right after high school. You're literally been going through the last 12 years of your life where everybody's like, this is what you got to do. This is what you got to do. You got to study this. You got to do this. That puts a lot of pressure on a kid, man.
Right.
Yeah.
I was just going to say sometimes that's the better option, is to, you know that you know yourself enough to where you're not ready, and say, I need to do X, Y, Z first, or whatever, or, you know, take a year off. So that's actually, you know, again, that could have been a good choice on his part.
Yeah, I think the gap year choice for a lot of people is smart, because then they can try to at least try to narrow down what they would like to do for at least the next 20 years of their life. Because I think a lot of kids, unfortunately, get stuck in this where you got to pick something you're going to do for the rest of your life. And half the time we pick stuff that drains us, grinds us, and just, you know, just knocks us down so much that it grinds us down to pepper. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, you know, the funny thing is, when he decided to go to school and move down to Bloomington, Indiana, he was only there for like 33 days. And then he took his life.
Now, did he take his life on campus? Or was he with you?
No, he was at school.
Okay.
And he had a house with 4 of his buddies. And yeah, that's where it happened. You know, his friends came over to pick him up and load up their U-Haul. And I went out and took some pictures, you know, and he was so excited, and I was happy for him. And, you know, I told myself, don't cry, and I didn't. And I watched him pull off, and I went upstairs, and I heard shortly after, within 5 minutes, I heard the door open and shut, and I ran downstairs, and Griffin said, I forgot my backpack. And so he came up from the basement, because that's where his bedroom was. And he started walking down the driveway. He didn't know that I was behind him. And at the end of the driveway, he hugged me, saw me. I was crying. He hugged me, and he said, it's okay, Mom. It's okay. So he got in the car, and I went back upstairs to my bedroom, and I don't even know if he had left the neighborhood yet, because as soon as I got upstairs, he had sent me a text and said, don't be sad, Mama. Be happy. God is with me. And, you know, I still feel him saying those words to me, even though 33 days later he was gone.
I don't want to whiplash this, but I want to kind of, I can feel this. I want everybody to hear what is your happiest memory of Griffin? What is one of your happiest memories of Griffin?
He was just really enthusiastic, funny, witted kid. And I just, you know, one of my very happiest memories that happen often when Bailey, my daughter, who is 2 years older than Griffin, their bedrooms were across the hall from each other, and he would hide and scare her, and she would scream. And this would happen at like 10 o'clock at night, or while they're getting ready for school in the morning. And, you know, and then they started doing it to each other. and it happened all the time. And he would just belly laugh, and she would be like almost in tears because he scared her. And he just thought it was the funniest thing to harass her. And, that's just the kind of kid he was. He, listen, I know parents that have lost a child will say, oh, he had the biggest heart. No, they want to remember the good, and I am one of those parents, but I'm also a realistic parent where I don't forget the troubles that we had. I don't forget the struggles that he had. And, but he was just a funny, loving kid.
I know that you are pretty involved or strong with your faith now. Was that was that after? Did this happen after, or was that always a thing for you?
It's always been, my first and foremost. I was born and raised Catholic and went to grade school, high school, and college, and Catholic schooling. And then, as I got older and had kids, they started off in Catholic faith. And then I, got divorced and I got remarried. And I went through some rough times myself. And I went to a retreat that my friend Denise begged me to go to for like 2 years. And it was a non-denominational Christian retreat. And it was like a 3-day retreat. And those 3 days changed my entire world. And if I would not have done that for myself, I always say it was the best gift I've ever given myself. And if I would not have done that, I don't know if I would be here today after what happened with Griffin, because that just amplified my faith. I started reading the Bible. I just felt God's presence in me like never before. And it made me a strong woman, where before I never had that strength.
Yeah, it's said that the universe will talk to us in the language that we understand. So it makes a lot of sense that going to a retreat based on a faith that you so are involved in, it would come to you that way.
Yes.
And that's good. And that's good that you have that grounding. What were some of Griffin's like hobbies, and was there anything that stood out that he liked to do? Was he an artist? Was he a crafter? Was he a gamer? Like, was there were there things that he had that he was doing? Was he an athlete? Did he have?
He played football growing up in grade school and his freshman and sophomore year in high school. The thing he liked to do most with his buddies, if they weren't outside, they were in the basement playing Fortnite. And he had all the equipment, the headphones, and all that stuff. And he loved doing that with his buddies. They, when he moved from his bedroom upstairs to the basement, that happened when his buddies left for school. He wanted to feel like he was on his own, and he had a air hockey table and a ping pong table and blue lights all around. And so when he did see his buddies, they'd watch movies down there and play Fortnite all night. And other than that, he spent so much time with his friends. Here at our house, they'd have pool parties. They'd go cliff diving. They'd go just Kings Island in Ohio, and they just go. And that was one thing that I think surprised my family and all of his friends, is I could see how much he loved life and wanted to be around his friends, and he didn't like waste a day in bed or waste a day. He did what he wanted to do. And I envied that in him, because he was so free spirited that way.
Did any of his friends, or do any of his friends, I guess I should say, stay in contact with you at all and check in or anything like that? Or
there are some of his friends, the girls, Abby and Savvy, who are like my daughters now. They come over, they're in school still in Bloomington, and they come over on breaks. They send me flowers and call me on Mother's Day. The ones that I worry about all of them. Like, they're my own children. I've known them almost their whole lives. But I worry about his very best friend, Jordan, every day. I worry about his friend, Tyler, who found Griffin, every day. Jordan, Ty, I talk to occasionally, and Jordan has pulled away. And, I'll call him and he won't answer. I'll text him, he won't text back. But when Bailey tries to get a hold of him, he always responds to her. I think it might, I don't know why. I think it might either be too hard for Jordan, or maybe there's something I don't know that he knows, but I try not to think in that pattern, because I don't want to fall down a hole that I've been in after the hole of grief that I was in the first year. Every single year, this will be our third year, we all get together and do the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention walk. My family, Griffin's friends, and then afterwards, everybody comes over to our house and we, have a bunch of food, drinks, they swim, and that, I thought the first year we did that, the first year after he passed away, was on September the 14th, 2019, the day that the 1 year date of Griffin's passing. And I didn't want to go. I dreaded it. I had so much anxiety about it, but it's really been a true blessing in my life to have that, the love and camaraderie with my family and friends and the AFSP family, which I love that organization. I'm proud to sponsor it. And so this year we're doing it on September the 12th. And it's
ours is September 26th here.
Yeah. And, instead of dreading it, I look forward to it because I know I'm going to see his friends. I know that we're going to remember Griffin together, and then I know after the walk, I hope and pray every day that they find some sort of peace, not just for them, for myself. And then, afterwards, we sit outside around the pool and eat. And, like Zach Cash, one of his buddies, showed me a video that I'd never seen of them, the guys. And, I love to hear his friends talk about him. I think it's therapeutic for them and it's therapeutic for me as well. I wish I could do it. I wish I could do it with them once a week. But, they're 23-year-old, 24-year-old kids. And I understand they don't want to hang out with their buddy's mom anymore.
I'm sorry, Tim, because
go.
That kind of leads me into the next question, is to ask you, what are you doing? What is something that you did for yourself or are doing for yourself currently that has helped you with your grief, therapy, anything like that you're willing to share with us, to say out there for parents who have dealt with the same thing that may not have or haven't gone through this, but may someday, and just to say, how is your self-care and what are you doing for yourself right now? And how have you?
I have worked on my self-care every day. Every single day I work on, whether it's getting out of bed, it's a job for me, taking a shower, putting on makeup, doing my hair, feels like a chore some days. Griffin, I was in therapy before Griffin passed away. I had some really severe health issues. I had really bad colitis, ulcerative colitis, the beginning stages of Crohn's disease. And it was so physically bad for me, then it became mentally bad for me that I started going to therapy. And I had, we found out Griffin had passed away Friday. The police came to our home around 3:30, 4 o'clock, and my husband and I were in my therapist's office that Monday morning at like 10:30. Shockingly enough, by God's grace, I had already had that appointment with my therapist. So I see her once or twice a month, depending on, now I see her once or twice a month, depending on how I'm doing. When at the beginning I saw her, it seemed like I was there every week. And my husband goes, we go together, we go separately. And so that's been just so helpful. I don't go every single time now and talk about Griffin like I used to, like the whole thing. And, now I talk about myself, but Griffin always comes up. It's been a blessing that we have had Dr. Fleming in our life. And she, has been someone I can count on. My mom went to a local church here, Geist Christian Church, and they have a grief counseling there. And she really wanted me to do it and sort of pushed me to do it the first year. And I wasn't ready. I couldn't even handle my own grief, let alone sitting and listening to somebody else's grief. It was just not for me at that time. It helped my mom tremendously. And I'm so glad that she went. My daughter sought therapy as well. Bailey Griffin's grandfather passed away 2 years before Griffin did. And he took his life, their dad's dad. And so after that happened, Bailey went to therapy, and she said going through that with her grandfather almost like prepared her mentally for Griffin's passing. Like after he passed, she knew how to deal with it because she had sought help. She's a strong girl.
It sounds that way.
She's stronger than me.
Yeah. And now you had stated that Griffin's grandfather had taken his life.
Yes.
And so I will ask, was there other mental health issues throughout the family that you knew of? Or, I mean, obviously you've had your own struggles also, and you were seeking therapy prior to Griffin's passing, and you said that you had gone through a divorce and stuff. So there's obviously been some traumatic stuff happened in people's lives, in your life especially. So there was stuff that you had to deal with. So I was just curious to know if there was any other mental health related issues within your family up to that point that you had known of before the passing of his grandfather.
Yes, absolutely. Alcoholism runs in both sides of Griffin's family. And his grandfather was an alcoholic, and he, fought the disease for many years and had a few years of sobriety. But he was always very, very good to his only two grandchildren, Bailey and Griffin. It was a demon for him. And he told their grandmother, his wife, Kathy, that basically he waited until Bailey and Griffin were adults, and he wanted to see him grow up. And then he couldn't take the pressure anymore, is what my understanding from what my ex-husband and I have spoken about. Griffin had a lot of those tendencies, with that alcoholism and some drug abuse. And Griffin, we sent Griffin to treatment in Florida for a few months to get help. And he came back from treatment and told me to my face, "Mom, I will never, ever use drugs again, but I'm not going to stop drinking." And that was a shock. Bailey, you see things after the fact, like I said before, and Bailey said she thinks he did what he did because he didn't want to suffer like his grandfather did with addiction. I don't know if that's true. I have suffered my whole life from anxiety and depression. And Griffin and I are a lot alike. Bailey's more like her dad and her stepdad who raised her. And, I'm a crier. I hold my heart on my sleeve. And,
those aren't bad things, though.
No, they're not. They're not qualities to apologize for. It's just sometimes it leaves you susceptible. It leaves you susceptible to things. That's the problem.
I take other I used to take other people's problems and issues and bear that on my soul. And I don't do that anymore. I mean, I try. I'm mindful of it because
congratulations.
So when I get, thank you. I know it's hard. It's hard for me. It's hard for me not to worry myself almost to death about Griffin's friends, because I could let myself do that. I could go down that big sinking dark hole again, and that's where, I told you that every day I wake up, I try to do the best that I can with God's help and grace.
That's all we can do.
Yeah, that's it. That's
And
all you can expect.
It sounds
really...
like your daughter Bailey is a very strong woman. So, she has the privilege, burden, however you want to look at it, as to carry that beacon of hope, that torch of hope, and kind of stop that process and carry on healing for the family. So she's got a big weight, but it sounds like she can carry that very well.
She is remarkable. I mean, I tell her all the time, I wish I had your strength, because, something will happen and the picture will pop up on Facebook of Bailey and Griffin when they were in high school or, whatever. And I will just erupt in tears, and Bailey will look at it and smile. And I say, why doesn't this make you cry? Like, what's wrong with you? And it's just, that's how she finds peace, is to,
some people can look at it and say, I am happy to have shared the time that I did with him, as opposed to missing him so much and focusing on the hurt more. It's a tough thing to do, but mindset and, how we talk to ourselves is so huge.
That's very true, because I remind myself so frequently that I've written it in Sharpie on my bathroom mirror. God gave me you for 20 and a half years. One of the best gifts I've ever been given, to remind myself that, I had the blessing of being his mom, good or bad, pain, struggle, cheer, happiness, joy, but most of all, love. I had that gift of Griffin for 20 and a half years. And, I feel blessed to be his mom and Bailey's mom. I'm just grateful and blessed.
It sounds to me as if they were also, and I can't thank you enough for being willing to come on and talk about your son and your daughter and your family and opening up wounds that you will be obviously tending to for the rest of your life in one way or another. I hope that you find peace, if you haven't already, and on your path of finding peace, because I don't know if we ever find peace. I do know from my years of being involved in AFSP and seeing the same people come to walks every year that it's wonderful to be able to see certain people start to smile after a couple of years and being able to reignite their flame for living and still being able to memorialize the people that we've lost. And I think that that's why we do what we're doing, is we just hope that we can share stories and keep people's memories alive. And I know you said this when you wake up every day, that it's just part of self-care just to get out of bed and put makeup on, and that you have a picture of him in your bedroom and that he's the first thing you think of. And as someone who has a really deep faith, you must feel his energy all around you, I would think, right?
It's his friends have individually called me and told me about things that they have seen or felt, or and my husband has had those experiences, where he would be down in the basement and watching a game and talking to Griffin and saying, did you see that play that so and so on the Packers just made? And then a light will turn on or something like that will happen. There was 2 things that I did the weekend after Griffin's funeral. I told my husband, we were alone sitting on our back patio, and I looked at him and I said, I'm not going to let Griffin's death tear our marriage apart. I know that happens when people lose a child. And I said, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to fight for our marriage. And the second thing was I was alone by myself where I am sitting right now on the balcony off my bedroom, and the sun was going down, and I looked up into the sky and I said, God, I don't need any signs from you. I don't need anything, because I know my son is with you now. So ever since I said that, I really don't seek anything, like I know people want to seek to have a sign and stuff like that. I'm just not that kind of girl,
that's good.
Yeah, that can bring, because you're diverting everything to that thing. You're seeking this light, this this whatever it is, this and that can create more suffering on top of already what is happening. So that can be a good thing for sure. I mean, that's
that's the Buddhist tenet, man, letting go. And that letting go is big, because by letting that go to that, then you're able to bring all the things now that you can see in again, and all those signs that, people seek and ask for, just that, they don't come if you don't release yourself to the wave of it.
I have something I want to go back on, but before I say that, I just want to, I guess, a reminder that, you should give yourself maybe some more credit and some compassion, because, the situation that you have upon you is huge. These are things that, are very, very tough and hard to struggle through, and you're doing a fantastic job. So I just wanted to say that. But going back to earlier when we were talking about like the pool parties and the after Griffin had passed, I guess my question would be, in your opinion, is there any way, for someone to open up a conversation? Is there any language which you prefer to use when having conversations about suicide? Because sometimes it's, whether the person that is gone, whether they had a best friend that they were close with, it may be hard for them to verbalize how they're feeling, and maybe they want to say to you, something in the biggest way, but they just can't find the words to say. So I guess the question, would be, for your opinion, is there any way for someone to open up that conversation, or a particular language to use for this specific topic?
I have talked to some of his friends, and I talk to my friends about it a lot. I post things on Facebook, and Instagram all the time. That's something that really bothers me and that I want to change is the stigma of the silence. Especially in men. I think that, they hold their feelings back. They hold their struggles back. And, that's got to change. You can't look at somebody who is sharing their struggles as weak. It's not weak. It's just the opposite. And what I hope and pray to do one day is what, one of my best friends, Denise, told me is someday you are going to take this tragedy that happened and Griffin's life as a blessing and turn it around and make a way for others. And that's when I told you, Tim, that when you reached out, I told you that. And I said, this is my first step. It's taken me almost 3 years, but this is my first step. And, I would love to be able to go into junior highs and high schools and say the word suicide. And my son.
Good for you. You should.
And I know that there are people in my family, my extended family, that, and maybe, other people, I know there's other people in my life that look at me and say, oh my gosh, Griffin took his own life. He must have been unhappy at home, or, what she must not have been a good mom, and, all that kind of stuff. I don't let that process go through my body, through my head.
Good for you. Good for you.
It's not some shame. It's a disease, just like having heart disease or cancer. It's something that somebody should be free to say out loud to whomever. I don't feel good. I'm depressed. I'm having anxiety. I'm struggling. I need help. And, I don't want one more soul to pass by suicide because they're shame or fear.
Yeah, I mean, well said. I think we can agree on, we do the same thing. We do this for the same reasons. And I think I can speak for Will. We're both very grateful that you are sharing your story with us, for the first time. And, it's a big step. And again, we both would encourage you to go into high schools, do what you can, go walk into high school, tell them who you are and tell them what you want to do. Don't let anything hold you back to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate that. And, you, both of you and Above Ground have, made me take that first step. It's a big step. It's a hard step.
That's the biggest step. It is the hardest step.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that the next 3 or 4 steps or the next set of stairs is going to be easy, but making the first step is always the hardest. And I can't thank you enough. We usually finish up the episode with like 3 questions, but I'm really trying to read the conversation, and I don't necessarily think that all 3 of these questions are appropriate at this point. I thank you so much, Jayme, for being here. I am so sorry for not just your loss, but your family's loss, the friends of your son, of Griffin's, their loss, and the loss of just another light that the world has extinguished, because that's what happens, is that we lose another light every time we lose someone. So glad that you have found strength and that you were willing to share with us, and thank you so much.
I appreciate that, Will, and God bless you for what you do
Thank
with
you.
above ground and beyond with AFSP and everything. So
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thank you. And I appreciate you being here.
Thanks.
Yeah. So I guess if there was one thing that would pop into your head, if someone said there was something that you could do for mental health as a whole without any kind of restraint, what would it be?
Speak. Use my voice that God gave me. Use my heart and my grief. I would speak and share the love and the grief. That's what I need to do. I just need to speak.
Awesome. Thank you. And you have, and I Tim, if you could just hang out for 1 second, Jayme, I'd appreciate it. Tim, there's not really much else to say to that, man, except thank you for sharing your story with us. And thank you for finding the strength to share your story, and that hopefully out there, there's a parent out there who's been through this that may need some sort of, help or push to find something to keep going.
I don't think there's any wrong way to start the conversation. It's just like you said, speak up, speak with your heart, and just say what you feel, and I really believe that the person that you're speaking to isn't going to judge that. They're going to welcome it, and it could be the start of something bigger.
Yeah, I agree. So until we speak and meet again next week, be well,
be safe,
be above.
If you've lost someone to suicide, you may feel overwhelmed by grief, confusion, or even anger, but you are not alone. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention offers support in the weeks and months following a suicide. The Healing Conversations program gives those who have lost someone to suicide the opportunity to talk with a caring volunteer. Having experienced suicide loss themselves, our volunteers know firsthand the emotions associated with this type of loss. They can offer comfort and guidance, as well as community resources that may be useful on the path ahead. Healing Conversations are available in person, on the phone, or by video chat. To learn more about the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention and how to schedule your own healing conversation, please visit afsp.org/healing conversations.